Okay, let's get going. Welcome, traders. Welcome to TradeSetup and the live stream for the 8th of June. Hope we're all doing well today, and we're looking forward to a big night tonight in the US. Actually, Europe and US session. So once the bell goes for our session, I think it's all on after that. We've got a few things happening tonight to watch out for. For anyone that's new, we'll just go through the usual process. In the top left-hand corner, join us on Twitter if you can. Top right, we've got our Facebook address. In the top bottom right-hand corner, we've got our YouTube channel where you can subscribe to us at YouTube. And that way you'll see anything that we actually put up in the way of stream or videos or anything like that. You'll get alerted to that once you subscribe. Also, the general advice warning. We're going to give general advice, not specific advice at all. So it's just all our own views and opinions and what we look at. So we'll have a chat about that a bit later on. What we're going to look at today, obviously, is what's happening in the US. So the big news is, and I think this is what, while we've seen a bit of a sell-off in our market, really, I guess people are just locking in a bit of profits. We've got a fair few things happening tonight. You've got the ECB, now what is it, the ECB rates decision tonight. They're expected to keep it steady, but they're going to lower their inflation outlook. So that's probably going to affect, obviously, Europe and the Euro. There could be a bit of volatility out there. The big one in the UK, you've got the UK elections. Now, that's been a bit of a funny one. That's been a bit of a swings and roundabouts on the pound, because I think the polls, which everyone's been watching, have been quite in favour of May to become Prime Minister or to win, and then they got a lot closer, and then they've sort of swung back out again. So I think the way it's looking at the moment, May is going to was going to win and continue to be Prime Minister over there, but you never know. We did think that about the US elections, so it's going to bring in a bit of volatility. So if you trade at night and you trade some of the indices or currencies, just be wary of what's going on, and I guess just trade accordingly. So it's going to be some good trading, potentially some really nice trading opportunities in the currencies, because there's going to be a bit of volatility coming to the market. Everyone's expecting it. Worst case scenario, there's not going to be much volatility. It's all quite smooth sailing. So we'll see how that goes. And the one I'm actually interested in is ex-FBI director James Comey is going to testify. I don't know what the committee you call it. I think it's a committee of politicians, but he's going to testify about what's happening between Russia and the previous elections and their hand in, I don't know what they were, the hackers. Anyway, so that'll be interesting to see what he comes out and says and how that is going to affect the market. So just keep an eye. I don't know what time that will be, but just keep an eye on the news flow. You can always link into Bloomberg. Bloomberg got an app which gives you live alerts via the app, and that's quite good for just general news flow. So that'll be interesting. I'm just looking forward to seeing what he says. Not so much what it means to the markets, but as more got to do what he says. That's going to be interesting. Let's rip into it now. We'll go over the usual. We'll go over the charts. Look at where the ASX is at the moment. Just going to change over the charts. There we go. You got my face on there now. I've got my new top on. I've done my hair. I'm all set and ready to go. So how are we all? We are looking forward to tonight. Anyone got sort of... Does anyone trade the US session or the European sessions? Or have a play around in the indices, the DAX, say? If you do, you could have a bit of fun tonight anyway. Where are we at the moment? So we were down about 30 to 40 points, I think, on the open. The ASX, and we bounced back a bit. We've had a bit of news yesterday and today. It's trade balance today, which came out a lot less than expected, I think. Let me just find out if I can see those figures, if I've still got them up, which I don't think I do. Anyway, trade balance, I think GDP wasn't so good yesterday, so the Aussies actually kicked on higher, which is interesting. I'm not exactly sure. The Aussies found a bit of strength, but like I said, our trade balance wasn't too good today. I think it came out at whatever billion. Let me just check. I'll get it up rather than talk about it. Excuse me. So what do we got? So yesterday we had our GDP, which actually was recently 1.1%. They were expecting up 2.2%. It was actually up 0.3%, so a little bit better than expectations, but not as good as previous. And then today, our trade balance came out at, it was only up, well, $500 million, just over $500 million, and it was expecting nearly $2 billion, so, and previous was $3.17 billion. So, not the best figures, and we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, our market was actually opened a lot weaker than I expected. I was expecting maybe 10 to 15 down, just after what happened in the US, but we actually opened and pretty much headed south, went through a bit of a support zone from overnight, washed it out, and then we've just bounced back. We're sort of around down about 5 at the moment from yesterday's close. We'll take a look at the charts in a minute. Actually, we'll just flick them over now. We'll have a look at the ASX. So here you go. You can see that, well, this is a CFD. Just get rid of all that. You can see that overnight we had some lows around that 56.40, and of course the market's just, popped through them on the open, washed it out, and the ASX, that's where the ASX is actually opened a bit weaker, and then we've had a bit of a bounce back, and we're just sort of up at some minor levels at the moment. I think your key level's up towards 56.81, but it'd be interesting from here, this is a half an hour chart, whether we can get a bit of a pullback and start building a bit of a higher low, which we can work off this support zone, and that potentially is just a daily washout. And then we work our way higher, back up and through 56.81, because we've been beaten down quite a bit. Let's look at the actual XJO chart. Beaten down a bit in the... That can't be right. I was going to say that's a bit strange. So that 5800 zone is held, and we've got a lower high, and we're just pushing through these lows here at 56.75. You can see a couple of rejection candles. We're getting into a major zone at 5600. So that's more of your major anchor level. So that's pushed up here. We've pulled back. We've just broken through 56.75, so it'd be interesting to see if we actually come back down and retest sort of around 5600 or just above. Fair bit of weakness from the banks, actually a lot of weakness from the banks, and what's that? Because of their taxes, the levy. So people are not liking that, and sooner or later it's going to get passed on the consumer, or they're going to have to reduce, I guess, dividends. It's going to, some way it's going to affect people, whether it's through... they're just going to get passed on in fees, or it's going to be tax, or however they're going to do it. So the banks are not doing so well, so that's dragging the index down. Commodities, not the best. We've got the CRB index, which we follow. The commodity index has been heading south for quite a while now, so it's not looking the best. So I think the ASX is just really, and you've had a good, strong run-up. If we can just go to the weekly charts, you can see we've had a good, strong run-up, and it was probably due, I thought it might have pushed up through 6,000, due for a tiny correction. So really we could just be correcting at the moment. We're going to see how that key level around that 5600 goes. So that's sort of the next stop. If we hold up above there and start holding up and building some higher lows, somewhere around in here, that would be awesome. And then that could take us back up again, and we'll just break out of that contraction and head higher up towards 6,000. But for now, it's just really wait and see how that plays out. What's everyone else's view on the ASX? Anyone think we're due for more weakness? Any bears out there? Bulls? Just going to go over to the indices and see where everyone else is trading. Dow Jones still hovering up near the highs, all-time highs. Could be in for a bit of action tonight, but that price structure there is looking good. I'm not negative on that at all. We're holding higher lows on the Dow and pushing through the highs. We're just holding above, well, just a touch shy of all-time highs. So it'd be interesting to see if that can just continue on, and maybe that's going to drag us back up again. We just have to see. We've got the S&P 500, same sort of deal. That's further on into highs. It's getting a bit more extended at the moment. See the stochastics in overbought territory, but there's no reason why that can't just creeping on high, grind higher, dragging a few people in short, and then washing them back out again. FTSE, a bit of the same case. You've got some holding higher lows in the longer term. Nice high low here at 7,100. It's really pushing up. Bit of rejection up here around 76, but I'm guessing that's more due to the elections, upcoming elections, and people just being a bit more cautious going into the elections, knowing what happened during the US elections. Yeah, I agree with you, Wayne. I'm sort of looking at it more. There's a bit of news, and there's nothing wrong with locking in a few profits. And when the markets get belted down, everyone gets a bit nervous, and they've got a few triggers that we could really tip it over. But it could be a bit of say it's a bit like what happened in the US elections: sell the rumor, buy the fact, sell the hell out of it, and when Trump actually wins, then the market just turns around and rallies from there. That could be a case of what's happening in our market. We'll see how we go. Let's take a look at the Aussie. Actually, that's it. We've got the DAX. We'll just go over the DAX. So the DAX, definitely, all the major indices are trending higher. The major markets, they're all doing quite well. We're just the one that's struggling a little bit. We've got a history of struggling, I guess, too. Just go back to our market. Bit of a history of struggling, whereas the DAX, the FTSE, the Dow, they're all hit new all-time highs since the GFC, obviously. And we're just struggling. We're just struggling around that 6,000 mark. We're a lot more tentative than the other markets. They're a lot more, I guess, more bulls, you'd say. A bit more bullish. All right, let's just go look at the Aussie quickly. That's the ASX. So this is the Aussie 4-hourly chart. We're looking for just looking for a bit of a short squeeze. There's quite a fair few shorts built up at that, and that was coming into 75.47. I don't know if anyone looks at the weekly FX review, but we had a bit of a talk about the Aussie. That came out last night. Bit of a talk about the Aussie and that, and you can see, if we just minimise that, you can see that markets pretty much oscillating between some major resistance and support at 77.55 and down at 71. Get rid of that, 71.55. But what's happened? It's pushed up, made a double top, just failed up there, pushed down. But what we're doing now, that contraction lower off that major resistance level at 77.55 really has broken. We built that higher low at 73.75. So that would suggest higher prices. And then you've got that, which 73.35 is basically a major higher low. So we just have to see how that plays out, whether on the daily we can push up through 77.50 or we just start stalling and then roll over on a longer term basis. I haven't read much about the Aussie, but I have seen, say, Twitter feeds, anything like that. Some are really bearish, some are bullish. I mean, just got to look at the price action to see how we go. But anyway, we'll see how that plays out. We do expect maybe a bit of a squeeze high, especially that pop up through 75.47 and then failure. That's going to bring in a few short sellers on the shorter term charts, and then I think we'll just build a 4-hourly at least, or on the hourly charts, a higher low, and then squeeze them back out as we push through the highs at 75.67. But from there, we've got a fair few levels we're going to run up to, and we may react off, as resistance. There's little lower highs in here. We all got to contend with those, so we'll see how we go. All right, let's just go on to what we've got running at the moment. Might be best just going over here. So the market's here, still holding. It's only down about 4 to 5 points at the moment. What have we got? So I just want to go over a couple of shorts that we've mentioned in the past, and there's, in my view, there's a few more that are starting to pop up. So that's always, and there has been since the ASX is heading south. I'll just go over a couple of things. Firstly is the shorts. There's just been a few more popping up. So that's obviously why the market's heading down. We've got a few stocks that have been overextended. They've been going up for quite a while, and you can see some profit taking coming in. We've got AFI. I like this as a short, and it's really just starting. That daily doesn't look like much, and it looks like it could easily head high. You've got these higher lows, but if you push out to a weekly, that doesn't look good at all. I don't know if anyone saw the alert come through yesterday. You've got this high up here. We just washed that out. That's around that 635, 640. Washed out the high and then capitulated. Took out these high lows through around that 590 mark. And we're pushing up, but holding below $6. And I don't mind that price action for a major lower high. And really just once you bust through that contraction higher, but we're just stalling. You're getting the sellers just stepping in, just around that $6 mark or even a tad lower. Buyers are still starting to perk up and push it up, but they're sort of going to be fuel for that move down. And we've just seen we're just in the midst of breaking down. You can see those high lows holding, and just the last probably week or two, probably really just this week. I don't know if it was last week. This week we've just broken through. So the all important level for me is really through that 570 zone. You can see if we go back to the daily, this zone, say 570, 565, that zone through here, once we break down, I wouldn't mind seeing that a bit of a bounce back where you get those a few buyers just stepping up to the plate, thinking we're oversold, and then jumping in, and then you get the selling pressure coming back in again and just really washing them back out again. But that to me looks very negative. What else we got? We got a few that we mentioned a while ago. Just got to remember them. IFN, all right. That was one, pretty much the same, similar price action if you're looking at this. Let's go back a bit. Everyone's seen these charts quite clearly. Anyway, you can see, if we go to that weekly, you can see that had a hell of a good run up here, up to $1.20, a double top at $1.20. Then we got that big failure down to 70. Now, if that was a really strong market, you should have seen it hold the high lows and push up and make higher highs, not just sort of stall around that 105 mark. It did stall there a couple of times on the weekly basis. So that's just evidence that anyone that's sort of bought it in here and see this big sell-off is really getting sick of holding it and just wants to book some profit. And when you push up once, you had to have another pullback. You go again to get through, and you only get through by a few cents, and then you have another pullback. That's not a good sign. And that's pretty much the same type of price action. You can see these higher lows holding into a key, not a key level, but the sellers are starting to step in at the same level, around 105. Bit of a washout here, and then we've seen that sell-off. We were looking at it through 90 as a bit of a key level, which is pretty much the major, the last higher low. In that move up to 105. That's been washed out, so we expect a bit of a grind lower. We'll see if that accelerates. Not really accelerated at the moment. It looks like IFN has more of a steady move, more of a controlled move, so you never know. We might get a bit of a bounce, a lower high, and then that selling pressure really starting to come in, but we haven't seen anything capitulate as yet, which, look, we could do. We could capitulate down to 70, find some buyers step in. We just have to see how that plays out, but definitely that was on the short side. There was another one that's gone quite well. There we go. That's clearly, we mentioned this one probably a little while ago as well, so that was a nice setup. We were looking at this one, in all honesty, looking at it as a potential buy. If we can just draw that, actually, we'll just draw that up. Just to go through the process of, I guess the thought process behind it. Has anyone actually been trading, is it GXL? Or has been following this a bit? Or been following or at least following the alerts on it. If you know, we were looking at this as a potential long, but then we started seeing, you can see signs, so down through here, the reason why we're looking at it, okay? Nice little build up, you get that little washout there, it's popped up out of that contraction. The thing that I didn't like, we were looking at it through here. This is not a good sign when you get that little, we'll just draw that up differently. You've got a little washout here. So we've got a washout here, which is good, led to higher prices. And then it's popped up. Got a little washout there, which I don't particularly like to see. I like to see it go on with it a bit more. So rather than just a little washout at a level, then pull back, I'd rather see go strong, because then you'd expect buyers start to step into the market. Something like that, rather than this little washout and then it takes out the lows. So when we saw that coming there, you've got to be, I guess, just on guard that this thing could roll over just as easily as it could perk up. Now, this is where we were roughly looking at it through here. It was just oscillating through there, and then we started to get this lift into that 725, and we thought, okay, it's roll over. It's had a bit of a wash here. It's not a great sign. Contracted back. It's just had to come back to lower levels to bring in that buying. And then it's pushed up, but then it kept stalling at 725. It's gone bang, bang. Rather than set it as a buy, because of this price action, it was more just being a bit more conservative and just watching the price action play out. I'll just get rid of all that. So watching the price action play out and what we saw. So at this stage, through here, we've seen it push up into that 725. Saw this little pullback. I would have expected, again, a nice hard move up, potentially up to $8, and then what I'd like to see is that little pullback, and then look for an entry somewhere after it. But I want to see that little acceleration, that little pop higher, which it didn't play out. It just really washed out that 725 again. I think it got to highs of 735, so 10 cents, which in the scheme of things wasn't much at all. So viewing that, if we just go back now and we look at it, that's not a good sign. So that potentially becomes a major lower high. You've got this move down, a bit of a pop-up, a bit of a washout. Okay, a lower high in context to this one. The market just really does look like it's struggling. That stock was looking like it's struggling anyway. So from here, just a matter of seeing where does it have to break to get a bit of a short trade. And you can see that that market was just pushing down. You held the high lows, and once we sort of broke through, it was around that 650. Pretty much it was on. It was on for young and old there. I like that little saying. And if you just go down to the daily, it probably stands out a bit better. Through 650, roughly through here. Oh, it was probably more 640, wasn't it? So it shows up a bit clearer on the daily. So that breakthrough 640, it really, the only problem was it hasn't really played out with a nice little entry like I'd like to see. This, just in here, if you're looking for a short entry, would have been quite nice. I don't know if that played out, if that was exactly what we're looking for, but you can see that little lower high there. If anyone noticed what we're saying, especially after the context that we were just talking about, this little washout of 725, the major washout, the major lower high, then you've got this another major lower high coming through around 725 with a washout. Then you get that little shoulder, so pushing below 6, I think those lows at, what was that low, 666, the devil's number, pushing below there would have been ideally a nice little short trade, and you've got your risk just above 7. Does that make sense there, guys? So it's good, I guess. One thing is just to be, and that's why I've said a few times now, it's really important just to have your entries lined up and know what you want to see, and really look for signs of strength rather than just a standard entry. So that's why it's important just to get a read on the price action and what you're seeing. Is it looking strong? Are we getting that acceleration like we expect for a buyer? If we are seeing buyers step up to the plate, are we seeing weakness that we didn't expect? If we're seeing a bit of weakness, okay, just flip it around. Could this potentially be a short? So it's just a good mindset to look through. Always take both sides of the market. Okay, if I want to go long, look at it from a short perspective. Does it look weak? No, it actually looks really, really nice. The buyers are stepping up. We've got nice evidence of with the price action of actually buyers stepping up to the plate. And then so it sort of keeps you, I guess, more grounded than biased. Does that make sense, guys, what I was just talking about there? So the next thing I just want to touch on before we open it up a bit is with our alerts, what we've done, if we just go back here, so we've got our alerts on the left-hand side. Some of them are going really, really well. The market, since the market has been heading south, I don't know in percentage terms, we've put on a few percent, but the market's headed down a few percent. So in that respect, it's always good. Even though the market's looking a bit negative, there are really nice setups out there, and that's why it's important to, when you're looking at the XJO constantly and it's going up in a bit of a bull trend, that's great. I mean, you can be a bit more blasé on your setups, I guess, because you know that most of the market's going up, the market's in a bit of a buying mood, everyone's a bit more positive, so it's not quite as important, I guess, to have the ideal setup. But when markets are heading south like we've seen just recently, getting those ideal setups, it's a bit more important because you don't want to get something that's looking, okay, the setup's looking a bit weak, and then it gets you in the trade, and then it turns around and washes you back out. It's just remembering to have context of what's happening with the overall market, say the ASX or the XJO, whatever you want to call it. So we've got what we've got running at the moment, AFY, there you go, looking great. That's kicked on. We've taken a partial at 295. Wouldn't mind seeing that. It's holding up around that $3 mark, which is quite good. It's extended there. The weekly's still looking quite good. It's on the way high, so you might find that it just gets that selling pressure as it gets a bit higher. We may have a bit of a correction and build another high low, major high low, somewhere maybe 280, 290. That would be nice if we hold up near the highs. That's a good, strong, positive sign. But that setup through here was quite nice. What we were looking for. So at that stage, we've got that weakness coming through with lower highs, pushing down to $2, popped up with another lower high, pushed down, but only really washed out that $2 level only on a minor basis, really, only by a few cents. And then we pretty much pushed straight up and through that lower high. So that, to me, is quite positive. So you've got all this move up, bit of selling. It's tried to go a few times, had to back off a bit to bring in more buys, and it did that. Washed out at $2. You might have caught a few people with their stops under there, and it's just turned around and retraced straight back on them. And then we started holding those daily high lows, and I think it was about here where we got in, which was really looking quite nice. So that's a prime setup. That was looking good. What else do we have? Can never quite remember what we got. MMD, that's one that it's just kicked up through 1350, so it had a bit of a minor pullback the last couple of days. That's a weekly, it's a daily chart. It is getting a bit extended up here. Nothing too much to worry about. The weekly could still get extended and then kick on a bit higher through 14. Wouldn't mind soon just looking for an area or a zone for a bit of a profit. But I want to see this type of action, if you can see. So we've got this a beautiful little setup through here. It's really that I guess you call it a cup and handle. You've got the handle up here. I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, if you're listening. That little handle up there, and it's that cup formation that spent quite a bit of time, pretty much the last 3 months, building that. So any selling was absorbed, and then you started coming out the right-hand side of it, popping up through these lower highs, holding higher lows, and then it was starting to work its way up. So if we can get that acceleration now, as anyone that's late to the party doesn't want to miss out and really starts chasing price higher, we get that acceleration, then we'll just have to work out where a potential profit zone is where we can just book a partial exit. But at the moment, I think we're up about 4 or 5% on that. So that's looking good. Like that price structure, it's got a lot of potential. And you can see the weekly, we've just popped up through this, what is that, resistance, those highs, 13. So we've up above that 13 zone. So really the next zone to be looking up towards potentially is maybe 15 to 16, where we might find a bit of reaction, a bit of resistance up there. But that would be great if we can extend up to there. Awesome, we'll take a bit of a partial and see how we go from there. All right, OGC did pop up quite strong yesterday. We're getting a bit extended on the daily basis. Has opened down and traded up off its lows from the open. Anyways, but that's purely because gold had a bit of a pullback overnight. People just booking a bit of, after a couple of, I think we had a good run the night before, but it's been a bit choppy, gold. It's had a good run up, bit of profit taking, has pushed it down a bit, and another good run up, a bit of profit taking last night. So, and that's all because the unknown of what's happening out tonight. We don't know what sort of volatility, so gold could have a good run tonight, just depending on what plays out, what news could trigger a big sell-off. But we'll have to just wait and see. But if that's the case, then we should get gold. If the gold does kick high, we should get this kick high. We've got GOLD as well, which is still structurally looks really nice. We want to see that push up through 16.4. Touched on that yesterday or a couple of days, and we're just about close. Well, not far off the entry at the moment. I expect that to really kick on. See how that goes. That's a less aggressive trade. It's not a big trade. SHL, which is pretty sure we're still up on that one. It's had that good push up, so we got in around this 22.75 thereabouts. Good push up through 24. It's backed off quite sharp. If we don't see some buying in here, we might just tighten our stops up, tighten our exit up, but we'll see it's still holding trend quite nicely. And the thing we like, it's had a good sharp run up, and it tends to do that, and it has a good sharp pullback. We'll just see it's done a lot of work through here, pretty much since December, choppy between 22.25 and this support around 21, and then hold the high lows, had a good run up through that, right up through resistance, 23.75. And that's where this highs at, say, around 24 come into play there. Bit of a back off, held that high low where we got in, so that was a beautiful little trade, a continuation trade, and it's kicked on through those highs. Just backing off now, so if we can build another higher low, and that can push up through 24, give or take. On the weekly, you can see the weekly, that's looking great. Push up through 24, then we'll be looking. Profit target on this one as well, partial exit, so see how that goes. Can't think of what else we've got at the moment. SKC, that's back to where we got in. That's nice. That price structure looks really, really nice too. Looking great for continuation higher. We'll just see how it goes in the next few days and what plays out tonight, obviously. And I think that's about it. I think that's covered pretty much anything. Any questions on those guys? Any of the charts? Any of the technicals that we looked at? Any more info on what we were looking at and why? Yeah, that's pretty much it. We've got one that I've just alerted today, and I've just got to find it, Bub. Now, this is a bit more aggressive. I'm guessing it's not a massively. It's got some good, half decent volume today. Bit of a volume spike today. Don't mind that one. If we just go, you can see why it's obviously it's had a spate of good news. If you can just go and do a bit of research and just see what news has come through. I think they've just done a good deal. If we just see that. With a distributor in China, and Bub's been the baby food or nutrition or whatever you want to call it. looking for, just got a good distribution partner, if we can spit that out, in China. So that could be some really bright things for Bubs over there. But looking at the technicals, had a good pop up today, and it's just popped up through that 16, this sort of recent high. So it was sort of banging around between 16 and down at low of 13, banging around there the last probably couple of weeks, and it's just popped up on the news announcement today. And you couple that with what's drove it up here, some other good news. They're doing the right thing, and I think with the news that's come out today, there's a few things in the pipeline too that could really trigger some more buying. But that'd be interesting if we get this type of reaction up towards 40 again. That could really be a goer. The thing is that the risk reward on this could be really good. I think they've got the great, good fundamentals. Everything's in play there. I really am just watching for a bit of a pop up. I wouldn't mind seeing it pull back to build a higher low, and just to show that little bit of extra evidence that things are playing out nicely and buyers are stepping up to the plate. Right, any questions on those guys before we jump in? And anything that you want to look at, whack it in the chat. Any charts, any of these stocks you want to look at, any currencies, take your pick. Let's just see where we are. ASX is in the green. It's just popped up. That looks good. Just while we're waiting, if anyone's got anything, just whack it in. Bank of Queensland, we were looking at that as a bit of a buy, and that's a bit like the short we were talking about before, where it was looking okay, and then you start seeing the other side of the picture a bit clearer, and it gets to that position where it could go either way. And if you're thinking long and you think, okay, from here, if it breaks down, it could be a short. If it breaks up, it could be a long. But just having that in the back of your mind and just watching, we were watching this for a particular setup. It didn't play out, and it started looking like the reverse and looked like it could roll over. Just for anyone else that's got S32, if we just go and, I should have drawn that up. This is something I just noticed the other day. It has potential to roll over, but it's sort of in that sweet spot too, where it could, not saying it's a short. Actually, no, we'll draw that. But I'm saying it has the potential to roll over. Now, if we just draw that up, we've got, if we're taking that as a bit of a support zone there, you can see that trend up has held high lows, it pushed down here. It's just like that reversion to the mean trade where it pulls back to that support zone or that support line. With any strength, you would have expected that to continue on. It's pushed up and fallen a bit short of the highs at around 310, I guess. Pull up short around $3, and we've just broken down. So I think this potentially has characteristics, I guess, where it could easily sell off if it can break through that 260, which is only a couple of cents shy of that at the moment. So just keep an eye on that, guys. Anyone that's got S32, just be a bit wary, I guess. Not saying I'm right or wrong, but that one you can just see on a very minor scale. It's got these little lower highs. Any sort of pop up to 275 has been pushed back down to 260. So from here, if we do get a bit negative, we could easily push down through 260, and then I think really start to see some lower prices. That would lead me to believe, especially off that double top, where it really struggled, that we're going to push down to at least 240 or even break down below that and have to do more of a major pullback before we start seeing some more buying. We could see a bit of, it's probably a bit out of scale, but that's more of we might see, we're just chopping around here. If we see that type of thing, we might see a bit more of that before we see higher prices. So I don't know where it could easily take back down to that $2 mark, a nice whole number. But just keep an eye on that. It looks like it could be a short. What else we got? Anything anyone's eyeing off as a potential short or long, or whack in the chat? Just trying to see what else we've been following of late. Let's just take a look. I haven't looked at FMG for a while. Fortescue, we were looking at that one. I don't know if anyone remembers that. That's one that's really, it looks like it's similar to S32, South 32. We've had that good push up over a long period of time. Pushed up through that, recent highs at 7, and then started struggling with a lower high, and that's where I think it was about there where it broke out of that contraction higher. Sorry, it broke out of that that move higher. So yeah, so it was about here when we're looking at it. So you think, okay, if we pop back up, built a lower high, if we went through 6, it was going to look pretty. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, Paul, because sometimes I think having a few bullets left in the gun for when things do cave in a bit, if they do have a good correction, and then you get those nice, I know the way you look at it, Paul, where it might be undervalued, it gives you some good opportunities. You've got something ready rather than just holding positions that are underwater. I guess trading it's more what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that FMG is not looking the best. It's holding that trend down. So really from here it's, okay, where are we going to? We're just holding lower highs. Another lower high at 550, it tried to pop up, and then it's just going through these lows at the moment. Excuse me. So it's just whether it just continues on that path, lower highs, lower lows. If we start seeing a bit of a higher low build, that's what we'd want to just keep an eye on that. So there is potential on Fortescue, I guess. We've had that contraction, so any sort of move up, you've got to get a bit of heat out of that movement because people are just not going to. There's going to less and less buyers the higher and higher it goes. So when you get that out, there's more and more people that have been are put on the sidelines or are sitting on the sidelines and waiting for that ideal opportunity, and that could be what's playing out. We're backing off a bit here, getting a bit of these people out who are booking profits, or there's going to be a few left holding it, but just booking a bit of profits. It's grinding its way lower. And then once we start seeing those higher lows build, then that might be perking up the interest a bit. Yeah, no, that's true. Putting money in the bank is a way of trading too, I guess. It definitely is. Going to cash. You hear a lot of people say that going to cash is actually a form of trading. Going back to cash and getting ready to go again. When this market, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, tonight it could be a bit of a storm in a teacup, and you get the S&P just driving higher. Nothing much plays out. The UK elections pretty much come out stock standard as expected. I think you're going to get that initial volatility. Say, for example, the UK elections, if you think about it, you're going to get that volatility anyway, even if, it's a foregone conclusion that May gets in. So, that what the polls are saying, you're still going to get people going to have to jump back in if they've gone back to cash a bit, and then, on the occasion where there could be volatility, something unexpected happens, then they're in cash and they're sitting there waiting and watching. Now, that's great, but if it all comes out and plays out like normal, and then the UK elections are over and done with, then there's going to be a lot of people that are probably sitting in cash that have to go into back into the market. You get that choppiness initially, and then it starts picking a direction and heading higher again. And the S&P, well, what do we got? It's just the FBI, isn't it? A testimony. So it'd be interesting to see how that takes it. And the ECB, well, that's not going to affect the US too much anyway. It's just the currencies. CKF, we hadn't mentioned that. You put that on my radar too, Paul. Now, CKF, if we just go to the weekly charts, looks good. And we've traded this, I guess Paul, we've traded this quite a bit in the past. A few times and done really well, actually. Let's just draw that up now. So we have drawn this before. You can see that trend. That's looking great. So on a weekly basis, that's holding trend as long as we get this little higher low forming and holding up here. Now, if this pops down through and you see it, say, trade down at 475, then to me, we've got to be wary. We don't know what's going to happen there, but we're getting that selling's really starting to take control. All right. But at the moment, right where it is, if we go down to the daily now, so just keep it in mind what's happening on the weekly. If we go down to the daily, and just getting in on this last price action. It's not what I want. It's that one, isn't it? It's looking great. You can see the lower highs. It's contracting lower. We've got this little. I'd like that. So you've got one leg down. You can see these. When we say two moves or two waves, or Elliott waves, they call it wave A, B, C, whatever they call it. I don't quite know, to be honest. But you got that little move down. We start holding some little high lows, high highs, and it contracts back up, and then it starts tipping over again. So you've got that pop back up. Then you've got the secondary move down. So a lot of what that does, you get this sort of shallow move down, that initial thrust down or push down, and then it starts popping up, but it's not convincing, but you still get buyers jumping in there, and it sucks them in, and then it pushes them back out again, so you get that lower move down. So from here, we've got that little pop-up. It's well within that resistance zone, around that sort of 590 to 6, and we're just pulling back. So what we're looking for really is evidence that high low's building. So we've got a little zone in here at 570 to contend with, because it could easily pop up. Well, if we just draw it up, we've had that move down. Mouse is starting to play out that pop up. That's at 570. And what we're doing now, we're just in the midst. So if we do sort of do this and pop up here, you can trade it here, but you've got to be wary this could easily roll over. And then we either target back down to, was it 490, or we go through that and a bit of a deeper correction. But that means it's broken out of that weekly trend up. Does that make sense? So I'm all for it actually popping up, and I would prefer to see this. And then what I believe to happen, well, that's not very good, but believe to happen is probably if we see this. Actually, let's just take this one step further, and then it pops up through this high. Then you've got to just remember that we're going to be contending with to see whether it's actually broken out of that contraction line, because it could easily pop up, find a bit of resistance, and have another sell-off. But it's really, I guess what I'm trying to say, it's looking good. On the weekly, it's in the zone. I just want to see this type of price action, that buy starting to step in, continually starting to step in. You can see it through here. It's been a fair few days. It's had a bit of a sell-off, a bit of a pop-up. And these rejection candles, that 510, is confirming that and that really acceleration high to 545 or thereabouts a few days ago, has sold off the last couple of days, but it is some nice signs. I'm not prepared to jump in just yet, but it is nice early warning signs that, okay, we're starting to pop up, and just want to see, if we can get up through that 5, even through 540, for instance, then I think that's going to be probably potentially nice. We're holding that high low, we've got our entry, we've got our risk, and then just see where it goes to from here. If we pop up and we do this, break through those highs at 570, great. If we push on up and then react, build a bit lower, it could just be a case of this longer term, and then we go. So definitely one that should be on the cards. You got anything else you're looking at there, Paul? Nice. Finished a nice cold coffee there. Is there anything else anyone else is looking at? Just trying to find the few that have run. Ramsey, RSG, RCG. ECX not doing the best. All right. Okay. All right, guys, if there's anything else you want to have a look at, we might just call it an early day there. If there's nothing else you want to chuck into chat, what we'll do, we'll probably finish it up. The market's, it's just in positive territory now, so we'll see if that can continue on. Let's just look at the intraday charts before we knock it off. 30 minutes. Excuse me. Yeah. Now, BSL, I'll look at that too. I just want to show you what we're looking at. It could be a bit of weakness coming into that, and that's purely if you just factor in where it's actually come from. What do we got? The 30-minute chart here. We're just starting to show some good signs where we're just going to push up through 56.80, about 10 points off that, I guess. Just through these highs. That high is from yesterday, 56.82. So if we pop up through there by the end of the session, or we might pop up prior to the end of the session and have a bit of a pullback into the close, we'll see that in that would potentially a bit of a washout. We might get some back and fill like this, and then we'll just have to see what happens from there. But there is some good signs. Might be get a bit of reaction off these major longer term support zones. And we might be holding high, low above 56, but very early days just yet. Let's go over to BSL then. It still looks good. Just looking at the weekly, if we just drill back a bit. Look. It's had a good run up. It's pretty much a good part of a year, and it's just coming up into that where it's done a lot of action. I mean, I know that's years ago, but it's still pushing up into that 14. If we just go down, so from that weekly, the reason it looks great here to me still on the weekly basis, it's the daily that we're trading from. So look, if it does find a bit more weakness, if we draw it up let's just draw it up on a weekly then. I'll try to explain what I'm talking about. Yeah. What are they? Have they just had a bit of a kick up, have they? That's probably why they're dragging and getting a bit oversold. Bit of opportunistic buying. All right, on BSL, we've had that, holding high lows, high low, nice high low. And really that's sort of the last major one was just right down around 750, and we've had this good projected leg up. So we could easily, you'd expect this is a nice zone to hold a high low, but we could, and then continue on through that 1350 highs. It's just this price action, it's leading me to believe we might have a deeper correction. If that makes sense, like we're going to pop up. We'll pop up and then have a deeper correction down. Just bear with me a sec there, guys. Just bear with me, I've got my little girl there. All right, so we've got, this could have just a deeper correction, but it's still holding that trend higher. I mean, you can see that it's got a lot of capability on BSL just to have a bit of a pullback, but still hold the trend. So buying in here, if we just go back down to the weekly, the daily in a minute, it's not showing the best of signs on a daily, but it still could do that type of price action and then hold up nice and then have another big go again, because really that anchor holding that weekly trend up is way down around that 750. We just look at the daily just to see what price action's playing out there. And it definitely, the weekly, just remember the weekly's in the zone on the stochastics as well. It isn't a good, but it could easily just sort of chop around the stochastics, hold that sort of, and then have a deeper correction, then go. Let's just go to the daily now. The daily, I really do like that daily chart. Now is that, so that's the most recent. That's that weekly high low around that 750 mark. I haven't followed Vocus there. I just saw your comment there, Paul. Private equity bid for Vocus. Probably. I don't know anything about the business. I just know it has been hammered. We'll have a look at that in a second. So you get that major, that's your weekly anchor leg to this trend up, and we had that push up higher. We've just got to the highs, washed out those highs, and then we started backing and filling, we call it, just building those push down, taking out the most recent high low in that daily, and then we're chopping down. So we could easily, really, you're seeing the potential for that 11 to hold up, but we're just sort of chopping between 11 and say 12.20, we could easily just push down from here. So really, I would like, with this type of price action, you want to see if we're going to chop between two levels. If we just draw that up, we've come in, we've pushed up. That's about here. All right, we pushed down. We sort of pushed up to the highs. We pushed down again. Push up to the highs. I want to see, and that's the most recent one, I don't want to see a push all the way back down here again. I'd rather see that sort of chop around in here at a high, sort of towards the high end of that range for a potential move up. And then that would signal to me this is going to be a nice curving type of cup and handle. And then we're going to get that continuation and pop through that 12, 20 to 25 zone and really start to kick on higher. But we'll see. We'll see. It's still got the potential. While it's chopping around here, I don't really want to touch it because this could just as easily head south and build a lower high and then go again and just really contract low. You don't know if that's going to do that weekly high low we just mentioned, or it's just going to go bang through 750 and have a major correction. Focus. Let's go over to that. Is it VOC? Yeah, looking at the chart, I mean, that obviously been belted. I'd say it's opportunistic. Let's just see the news. Binding proposal received. Yeah. So for me, as long as their business model's solid, I guess it's really good opportunistic buying because that has been belted through there. That's on we've got the monthly. Just go back to the week. We don't need to go to the monthly. You can see it's a good push up. A lot of profit taking. People just got, but once we saw that lower high, wouldn't have expected that. I don't know what's triggered that, but yeah, that's pretty much come all the way back down to sort of that $2 to $3 mark. It's just working its way off there. So all in all, I would expect a takeover offer. I would expect that is opportunistic there, Paul, by the looks of it. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes from here forward. For me, still on that daily, I wouldn't go near it after that move down. I think it needs a lot of water to go under the bridge there. For me, anyway, just to see if that can potentially be worthwhile longer term. Are you in that, Paul, by any chance? Are you looking at that? Or Wayne, you guys into that there at all? VOC? Okay. KKK. KKR. Alright. Be interesting to see if that can buoy it. Alright. Anything else you want to have a quick look at there, guys? Should have a look at those banks then. See what they've just done in the last few minutes. Oh, a lot of data. There we go. Now that is a 30-minute. Let's just forget about that. Let's go to the 5-minute. So that's the banks. Well, no, not the banks, but Westpac. Yeah, it's holding some higher lows there now. So it'll be interesting to see what we do, whether we can get up to sort of that 30-50 zone the next days or whatever. That's kicked up. Westpac, CBA is probably looking at it, similar, holding those higher lows, but it's still in the longer term downtrend. Let's just see what the 30 minutes are saying. So this is a 30-minute chart. I think it just gets a better picture, really. Yeah, it's having a bit of a reaction higher. CBA's the same. NAB has popped up in the last few minutes, hasn't it? Now it's popping off those lows at 29.20 thereabouts. ANZ is going to be similar, isn't it? What's BOQ? Yeah, pretty much similar. I mean, you can see that's basically, even on the half now, trend really definitely trending down. I think ANZ's the same, still trending down. It's had a bit of reaction off those lows. So CBA is the same. Westpac, all looking the same. If we go back to the daily charts. Just remember, and actually forget about the dailies. We'll look at the weeklies, the longer term. Talking about opportunistic, we could be be interesting to see if we're coming into that zone now. This is, what's that, Westpac. This is the weekly. There's been a lot of buying. We pushed up from here, whether we solid selling the last few weeks, obviously, because of what's happened, but whether we're going to be in that zone, we're going to start seeing some buying kicking up, and whether we push up to, say, maybe 33, for instance, and build another lower high. We just have to see how it goes. Fat profits predicting us to reach 62 by year end. Very courageous prediction. When did he say that, do you know? If it's been if it was a while ago, he's been feeling the heat a bit, wouldn't he? Let's just see on the chart. I think it's got a fair bit of work to do before then. He's probably feeling, if he set it somewhere around here, the start of May, then it could have been looking good then, but at the moment, we'll see. I hate putting figures on it like that. I'd rather just follow it as we go. Follow what you see. I don't really like putting a bit of putting yourself out there like that. Just picking a random number. Yesterday, oh, okay. Yeah, so we could just be contracting another leg higher. But we'll see. What are we looking at? The banks. I just want to keep going over these weeklies. This isn't. Don't forget, CBA is in a good zone too. It's just popped up. So technically, that looks good. When you contract lower and we hold a good solid level at 70 with lower highs, and then we bust out of it, you do have some contraction lower, but technically, you're in the zone on the weekly as well on CBA. Westpac's not looking quite as good as CBA, but CBA looks good. It's in a good little zone. NAB, they have sharper moves by the looks. It's not as controlled. It's harder down and harder up, but realistically, it's a very similar type of price action. It might be better viewed on the monthly. Yeah, they're a bit different, but still, monthly's just starting to roll over stochastic. So we'll just have to see how that one goes. What's CBA doing on the monthly? Sorry, guys, I haven't quite checked this out on the... it's looking good. To see if we can just hold up, we hold up around here and then kick on with it in a good zone. Like I said, we've had that solid selling on the weekly basis, but it's holding potential in a nice zone to hold a high low. NAB's going to be doing similar, and ANZ, they're all similar. So we'll just see how we go. So not to panic as we're near the bottom. Yeah, there's always going to be panic. The market's like the bulls and bears. People don't like giving up profit, but that's just the nature of the beast. That's what you've got to. I guess you a consistent approach to the markets, and taking that chance, because sometimes when fear prevails, it can give you the best opportunities too. All right, we'll probably call it a day there, guys. If there's nothing else you want to look at quickly, we'll call it a day, and we'll be back. Actually, Monday is a public holiday, so we won't be around Monday. I think the market's closed anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's a public holiday in Sydney and Melbourne. Dave, you still have to work, I think, don't you? But anyway, we won't be around on Monday, but we'll be back again on next Thursday, next week. So just keep an eye out for the alerts coming through, and then we'll sit and have a bit of a chat in there as well and just see what. So it'll be interesting to see how we go tonight. So good luck tomorrow, guys. So you just sit back and watch that action tonight, see if there is going to be some action or what plays out. Yield traders start to buy into positions for the ex-div period, yeah. Is expert equals X, the unknown quantity expert is I really like that way. There's a drip under pressure. Yeah, love it. That's awesome. All right, guys, thanks very much for joining us. We'll speak to you again next week. Have a great long weekend. Cheers, bye.